What's up, Net Soldiers? I'm Net Alliance, and today I'm asking the question, who will survive Star Wars Rebels Season 4? Now, before we begin, if you enjoy this video, please remember to like and subscribe for more Star Wars videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, please consider donating to my Patreon. There will be a link on the top of the screen or in the description below. But with that said and out of the way, let's begin. So to start off, for those of you who do not know, Season 4 of Star Wars Rebels will be the last season of the series. And afterwards, the writing staff behind Star Wars Rebels will be moving towards a new TV show. Now, I'm crossing my fingers for an Old Republic show, or even a show called Fun Times with Jar Jar. Oh wait. No, I don't want to put that idea out there. I feel like Disney might take that idea. Allow me to rescind that comment. But most likely, this new show will take place during the time between Episode 6 and Episode 7. But anyways, regardless of where this new show will take place, the crew of the Ghost is not in the original trilogy, leaving some to believe that they all must die. So in this video, I'll be running down each Star Wars Rebels character, and giving percentages on their possible survival, and how they might actually die if they do. So with that stated, let's start with our main protagonist, Ezra Bridger. Now, Ezra is the main character, and in a lot of ways, you can kind of compare him to Ahsoka in the Clone Wars, because he kind of took that archetype of the Padawan, the person learning, the person who's trying to gain this ability to eventually be more powerful. And we definitely see from Season 1 to Season 2 to Season 3 that Ezra is getting stronger in the Force, but he's also getting a little darker as well. So I would say if Ezra doesn't die, I think it'd be pretty cool to see him in the next show and actually have him the villain. Now the reason I say this is because if you think of Ahsoka, she had her own show in Clone Wars and then she came back for Rebels and then she was a good guy. So I think it'd be cool to see the opposite for Ezra. Although I don't particularly want Ezra to turn evil, I definitely think he could make for one really cool villain for the next show. Now with that said, I decided to give Ezra a 70% chance of surviving. Now the main reason why I think he would survive is because he is our main character. I don't think they're just gonna kill him off like that. And I think he'd be better utilized in a future show as well. Now moving on to our Mandalorian friend Sabine, I actually have her at 100% survival rate. Now the reason why I have her at 100% is because she can kind of go with the Mandalorians during the time of the original trilogy, and that's why we don't see her. Because if you think about it, we don't see the Mandalorians in the original trilogy at all. The only Mandalorian we see is Boba Fett, and technically he's not even part of their clan. So perhaps while the original trilogy is going on, she's leading her Mandalorian friends. So I'm gonna guess her mom is probably gonna die at some point too, and she's gonna actually take over as the actual leader of the Mandalorians. But I guess we'll see further into Season 4. Now let's move to Zeb. Zeb kind of acts as the comedic relief between all the characters. Some have actually compared him to Jar Jar. I don't think so. I think he's a lot better than that, but I guess it's all your opinion. So I have Zeb at a 10% survival rate, and the reason why I say this is because I actually thought Zeb was going to die in Season 3 at the end. So I think it would have made a really big impact if he did actually die in the end of Season 3, but I don't think he's going to make it out of Season 4. Now moving over to Hera, I have a 90% survival rate. So yes, pretty much I think Hera is going to survive the TV show. Now, if you guys didn't know, there's actually some Easter eggs in Rogue One where it actually has the ghost ship there, and I think Chopper is in the background, and also they say Hera's name over the speaker system, meaning, as many have speculated, the Star Wars Rebels TV show will tackle the events of Rogue One. Now, we don't know exactly in the show where this is going to happen, but I'm going to guess it's during the end of the show. So it might actually be like the second to last episode or the actual last episode, so it might just be all the characters going out with one big bang, but we don't know yet. And if Hera is to survive, I think that'd be really cool. They don't have to really kill her off, but I think it'd be an interesting way of maybe she gets injured and that's why we don't see her through the majority of the original trilogy, because she's been in a back-to-tank or maybe a coma or something like that. That'd be pretty interesting. And then even she could wake up for this new show and then they could continue from there or something like that. Now we're moving to Chopper. Like I just mentioned, Chopper is actually in the background of Rogue One, so I believe he's going to survive, and for that I'm giving him a 90% survival rating. I think he has the same amount of survival as Hera. He may not survive, but he's just a droid, so he could be rebuilt at some point even, who knows. Now let's move to Ezra's master, Kanan Jarrus. For Kanan, I gave him a 10% survival rating. I do not think Kanan is going to get out of this show alive. And I think mostly because if Ezra is actually going to turn to the dark side like I suggested earlier, I think Kanan is going to have to die to make him turn that way. Or even still, perhaps Ezra is actually going to kill Kanan himself. Because as we know, Ezra's becoming a lot more powerful, and maybe he's getting a little more jealous of Kanan and all that type of stuff. And now that he can actually fight Kanan back, there could be problems with that. So although I don't really want to see Kanan die, I do think he is going to. Now going to Agent Kallus, I gave him a 10% survival rating as well. I believe Kallus is going to die. I don't know how he's going to die. I actually think perhaps Thrawn is going to kill him. Those two are going to fight, and Kallus is going to die. Mostly because we don't see him in the original trilogy. as well as the fact that he doesn't technically need to stick around for any future things because he is Star Wars Rebels based, if you know what I mean. And he's from that universe, or that part of the universe, I should say. So I do think Kallus is not going to survive. Now let's move on to Rex. That was my Rex impression. Hope you guys like that. Now I have a 50% survival for Rex. Now the reason why I have this is because, have you heard about the theory about Rex surviving to the end of episode 6? Well, I really like that idea. And you know the one rebel who looks like him? I really like that idea, and I want that to be a thing now. Do you know, and I understand that Rebel actually has his name, but I do want them to kind of like just retcon that and make that guy Rex, because I think that'd just be cool. I like that idea. So I'm giving him a 50% because he might actually die at the end of Rebels. Give him that spot, you know, give him the spot in the Return of the Jedi. Just give it to him. Okay, that's all I'm asking. And if you don't, then he's gonna die. So I don't know which way they're going to go with this, so I'm just going to give him a 50% survival rating. Now let's move on to Ahsoka Tano. This one is super tough for me because I do not know at all what's going to happen to her. And technically, we don't even know if she actually survived season 2, but I personally think she did, so we'll see her in season 4. Now, I gave her a 50% survival rating as well, mostly because I don't know what they're going to do with her, because technically they could bring her over to the next show, but the question is, do we actually need her to come back? Because, you know, Ahsoka's story was in Clone Wars, as Ezra's story is in Rebels. And although she's a supporting character in Rebels, do we really need her to continue on in the rest of the canon? It's a tough one, so I put her at 50-50 survival rating. Next one we have is Fen Rhaal. He's technically like Sabine's master. If you consider Kanan Ezra's master, he's like Sabine's master of being a Mandalorian, I guess. I have him at a 60% survival rating, mostly because if he dies, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal to the overall universe. And I do think if he lives, it could make sense the same way I said with Sabine, is that Sabine was off with her Mandalorians during the entire original trilogy, so that's why we didn't see her. So perhaps Fen Rhaal was with her as well, so that's how he could get away with survival. For our next guy, we have Hondo, and I have him at an 80% survival rating. I wasn't going to include Hondo, and I was like, nah, I have to include Hondo. You know, he's like a staple of the Clone Wars and Rebels TV show. Gotta throw him in here. So I threw Hondo in here. And like I said, 80%. The reason why is because if he dies, who cares? Do you know what I mean? But if he doesn't die, cool. It makes sense. He could stay alive. He's a criminal. So perhaps he's just hanging out at Jabba's palace for the entire original trilogy, and maybe he's in the background. We just don't see him or something like that. But I do personally think he'll have a redeeming arc at some point. Now, what I mean by this is that perhaps he's actually going to help them at the Battle of Scarif. You know, I think that'd be really cool to see him helping the Ghost, and perhaps he's the one who saves the majority of them. Something like that. It'd be really cool to see kind of like a redemption story for Hondo, make him look a little bit more like a hero instead of a scummy, backwards guy, you know what I mean? And moving on to our final character, this is the guy that you all been waiting for, our main villain of season 3, Thrawn. I have Thrawn's survival rating at 0%. I do not think he's making it out of this series. Mostly because he's a pretty big deal in the actual TV show itself. So the fact that he's not in the original trilogy at all would just be really weird. Plus, I personally believe Thrawn needs to get killed. I think it'd be pretty interesting. Perhaps Thrawn would kill Zeb and Kallus or something like that, and then maybe Ezra would kill Thrawn, or even Sabine would kill Thrawn. I think that'd be really interesting to see. And although it's hard to say how he would actually die, I do think he's not making it out of the series. So there you go. Those are my survival predictions for Star Wars Rebels Season 4. What are your predictions? Who do you think is going to die? Who do you think is going to live? Let me know in the comments below. Please remember to like and subscribe for more Star Wars content. And until next time, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.